The words did not feel like words. They felt like a blade. Anna Fletcher stood very still in the bright morning light of the breakfast room, her hands folded before her apron, her heart breaking so quietly that no one would ever hear it. Just hours before, the same man had held her as if she were the only comfort left in his world. Now he would not even look at her. Harcourt Manor was a place where secrets lived in the walls. The long corridors carried whispers, and every polished mirror reflected more than faces. Anna had learned that in her 6 years of service. She had come to the estate at 16, thin from grief after losing both parents, and desperate for work. Mrs. Whitmore, the housekeeper, had taken her in out of kindness. Since then, Anna had worked her way up from kitchen maid to lady's maid to the late Duchess. When at 22, she knew how to move without sound. She knew how to press silk without a crease and lace without a tear. She knew how to keep her eyes lowered and her thoughts hidden. She had mastered invisibility, until one night she had not been invisible at all. 3 months earlier, the old Duke had died. His son, Jonathan Harcourt, became the new Duke at 31. He was handsome in a way that made the maids whisper in corners. Dark hair, sharp jaw, blue eyes that seemed to see through walls. But after his father's death, there was something broken in him. He walked through the halls like a man carrying a weight too heavy for one pair of shoulders. That night, Anna had been finishing her duties. The manor was quiet. The servants were asleep. As she passed the study, she saw a light under the door. As she heard the faint sound of glass against wood. She should have walked on. Instead, she knocked softly and stepped inside. Jonathan sat in his father's chair, a glass of brandy in his hand. Papers lay scattered across the desk. He looked younger in that moment, not like a powerful duke, but like a son who had lost his way. "Your Grace," Anna had said gently, "it is very late. May I bring you tea?" He looked at her as if noticing her for the first time. "Anna," he said slowly, "you read to my mother." "Yes, Your Grace. She said you were kind." No one had ever called her that before in such a tone, not as a servant, not as something small. She had stepped closer without thinking. He spoke of duty, of expectations, of how everyone watched him now, waiting for him to fail. He spoke of loneliness in a house full of people. Anna listened. She did not speak as a servant. She spoke as a human being. And when his hand brushed hers, something shifted. She had known it was wrong. She had whispered that it was wrong. But loneliness is a powerful thing. Grief is powerful. So is kindness. By the time the fire burned low in the hearth, they had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Now, in the morning light, he erased it all. "It was a mistake," Jonathan said quietly from behind his newspaper. "The brandy. My grief." Anna felt her cheeks burn, but she did not let her voice tremble. "Of course, Your Grace." "No one can know," he repeated, colder now. "You are still only a maid." Only a maid. She bowed and left the room with her head high, but when she reached the servants' stairs, her vision blurred with tears. So that day she folded gowns and brushed hair and carried trays as if nothing had happened. She told herself she could bury the memory deep inside her chest. She told herself she would forget the warmth of his hands and the softness in his voice when he had asked her to stay. She told herself she was strong. 6 weeks later, she knew she was wrong. The sickness began quietly. At first, she blamed the kitchen air, then the long hours. But when her monthly cycle did not come, fear settled in her bones. She stood in her small attic room one morning, staring at her pale reflection in the cracked mirror. Her hand rested against her flat stomach. "No," she whispered. but her body did not lie. Anna Fletcher was carrying the child of the Duke of Harcourt. The knock at her door made her jump. "Anna?" It was Sarah, a younger maid. "Mrs. Whitmore wants to see you." Mrs. Whitmore did not waste time. "You look unwell," the housekeeper said sharply, studying her face. "How far along are you?" Anna's knees nearly gave way. 6 weeks, she whispered. Mrs. Whitmore closed her eyes briefly. "Who is the father?" Anna could not speak his name. She simply shook her head when asked if he would claim the child. "I see," Mrs. Whitmore said quietly. Under normal rules, Anna would have been dismissed that same day. No respectable house kept an unwed pregnant servant. But the late Duchess had loved Anna. In her final instructions, she had asked that Anna be cared for. "There is a small cottage on the far side of the estate," Mrs. Whitmore said at last. "You will go there. We will tell the staff you are tending to a sick relative." Anna pressed her hand to her mouth to hold back tears. "Thank you," she packed that night in silence. Each folded dress felt like goodbye. Each book she placed in her trunk felt like a piece of the only life she had known. She left before sunrise in a small cart. The manor disappeared behind trees as the wheels rolled over gravel. She did not look back for long. The cottage was simple but clean. 2 small rooms below, a loft above, a wild garden outside. It was quiet there. No whispers, no grand halls. As weeks passed, her belly began to round. She learned to live alone. She cooked simple meals. She read by candlelight. She spoke softly to the life growing inside her. "I may not have much," she would say, stroking her stomach, "but I will love you." Winter came hard and cold. On a February morning, after long hours of pain, Anna gave birth to a son. When the doctor placed the child in her arms, she saw it immediately. Blue eyes. Jonathan's eyes. She wept as she held him close. "Thomas," she whispered. "Your name is Thomas." He gripped her finger with surprising strength. In that moment, Anna knew she would endure anything for him. 3 days later, Mrs. Whitmore visited and saw the truth written plainly on the child's face. "Good heavens," she breathed. "He looks just like him." Anna nodded. Mrs. Whitmore warned her gently. The cottage would soon be needed. Anna could not stay forever. Adoption was suggested. "No," Anna said fiercely. "I will not give him away." That night, as Thomas slept against her chest, Anna remembered her father's words from long ago. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. The next morning, she wrapped Thomas tightly in blankets and walked the long road back to Harcourt Manor. Her heart pounded with every step. She entered through the servants' entrance and requested to see the Duke. When she stood once more in the study where everything had begun, Jonathan looked up from his desk with surprise. "Anna," he said, "I was told you were caring for a sick relative." "I was," she replied softly. "But I must speak with you." She did not sit. "9 months ago, we shared an evening," she said. "You called it a mistake. I accepted that. I have kept silent." Jonathan's face drained of color. But there were consequences. She pulled back the blanket. Thomas stirred slightly, and his tiny face visible in the morning light. Jonathan stared. Silence filled the room. "He has my eyes," Jonathan said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes." He stepped closer, but did not touch the child. "What do you want?" he asked. The question hurt, but Anna stood straight. "I want nothing for myself," she said. "But I want security for my son. He deserves a chance at life. even if he can never bear your name." Jonathan closed his eyes briefly. "This must remain secret," he said. "No one can ever know." Anna nodded. She had learned long ago how to keep secrets, but as she looked at the man before her, and then down at the child in her arms, she knew one thing clearly. Some secrets grow too large to stay buried. And this one had only just begun. Jonathan did not speak for a long time. The fire in the study burned low, and the only sound was the soft breath of the child in Anna's arms. The Duke stood by the window, his back turned, his shoulders stiff as if he were holding up the entire weight of the estate alone. At last he faced her. "There is a small property in Scotland," he said carefully. "An estate that belongs to my family but is rarely used. The steward there is loyal and discreet. You can live there. You will serve as housekeeper. The position comes with a cottage and a salary." Anna held Thomas closer. "And my son?" she asked. "He will be provided for," Jonathan replied. "An allowance for his care and education. Quietly, through my solicitors. No one will question it." "And he will never know?" Anna asked softly. Jonathan's jaw tightened. "He cannot know. If this truth comes out, it will ruin him. It will ruin us all." Anna nodded. She had expected nothing more. "I understand, Your Grace." Within a week, the arrangements were complete. Anna left England once more, this time for the Scottish Highlands. The land was wild and beautiful. Hills rolled endlessly beneath gray skies. The estate of Glenmore was peaceful, removed from the noise of society and the sharp eyes of London. There, Anna raised her son. Years passed in careful silence. Thomas grew strong and bright. By the age of 5, he could read simple books and count faster than most children twice his age. Yet he had his father's blue eyes and serious expression when thinking. But he laughed easily like Anna. "Mama," he asked one afternoon as they walked through the heather fields. "Was my papa brave?" Anna felt the familiar ache in her chest. "Yes," she answered gently. "He was brave in his own way." "Was he tall?" "Very." "Did he love books like I do?" "Yes," she whispered. "Very much." It was not a full lie. It was only half a truth. Each month, Anna wrote a short letter to the Duke's solicitors. She reported Thomas's health, his lessons, his growth. She never received a reply from Jonathan himself. Only acknowledgement that the allowance had been sent. Still, she wrote. She told him when Thomas lost his first tooth, when he read his first full novel, when he asked why other boys had fathers who walked beside them in town. 5 years after she had left Harcourt Manor, a carriage appeared on the long road to Glenmore. Anna was in the garden when she saw it. Her heart stopped. Jonathan stepped down from the carriage, older now, lines faintly marking his face, silver at his temples. He looked like a man who had carried regret for too long. "Your Grace," Anna said quietly. "I would like to see him," he replied. Thomas returned from lessons moments later, running through the gate with laughter on his lips. He froze when he saw the stranger. "Mama?" "This is Mr. Harcourt," Anna said carefully. "He is connected to the estate." Thomas bowed politely, just as his tutor had taught him. "It is a pleasure to meet you, sir." Jonathan looked at the boy as if he were seeing something precious and fragile. "And you?" he answered softly. They spent the afternoon walking through the fields. Thomas spoke without shyness. He asked questions about London, about estates, about birds of prey that circled the cliffs. Jonathan listened, as though he could not hear enough. That evening, when Thomas slept, Jonathan faced Anna by the fire. "I cannot continue like this," he said. "Continue how?" she asked. "Pretending he does not exist." Anna remained still. "What are you saying?" "I am saying," Jonathan replied, his voice steady but filled with something deeper, "that I want to marry you." The words hung between them like thunder before a storm. Anna stared at him. "You are a duke," she said slowly. "I was your servant." "You are not only that," he replied. "You are intelligent, capable, strong. You have raised my son into a remarkable child." "Our son," she corrected quietly. Jonathan's breath caught. "Yes," he said. "Our son." Silence followed. "If we marry," he continued, "Thomas becomes legitimate. He becomes my heir. He will have my name, my protection, my world." "And society?" Anna asked. "Do you believe they will welcome a former maid as their duchess?" "We will change the story," Jonathan answered. "You will not be Anna Fletcher. You will be Anna Sinclair, daughter of a Scottish gentleman who fell on hard times, a distant relation of my family. We have been courting quietly. You would lie to all of England?" "I would protect my family," he replied firmly. Anna felt hope rise within her, but fear walked beside it. "And love?" she asked at last. "Is this only duty?" Jonathan stepped closer. "Yet 5 years ago I was proud and frightened," he said. "I hid behind my title. But I have read every letter you sent. I have imagined his face 1,000 times. I have thought of you more than I should admit. What I feel now is not weakness." Anna's heart beat painfully against her ribs. "What do you feel?" she whispered. "I feel that I was a fool," he answered, "and I do not wish to be a fool any longer." The next day, Jonathan stayed to walk with Thomas again. Anna watched from a distance as father and son stood by the great oak tree, studying a golden eagle perched high above. "Eagles mate for life," Jonathan told the boy. "Like people should?" Thomas asked. Jonathan glanced toward Anna. "Yes," he said quietly, "like people should." That night, Anna made her choice. "If we do this," she told Jonathan the next morning, "I have conditions." "Name them." "Thomas comes first. Always. If he is ever hurt by this arrangement, I will leave with him. You have my word. You will never again treat me as beneath you." Jonathan bowed his head slightly. "Never. And you will be a true father to him, not in name only." "I swear it," he said. Preparation began immediately. Jonathan brought books on etiquette and history. Anna practiced speech and posture. She learned the names of families, their alliances, their rivalries. She studied music and poetry late into the night. Thomas was told that Mr. Harcourt had taken a special interest in their welfare and wished to bring them to England. He accepted it with a child's simple trust. 3 months later, Anna stood once more before the gates of Harcourt Manor. This time, she did not enter as a servant. She entered as Miss Anna Sinclair. The halls were the same, yet everything felt different. Mrs. Whitmore greeted her with a careful curtsy that hid recognition. Thomas stared at the tall ceilings and grand staircase in wonder. "It is very big," he whispered. "Yes," Anna said softly, "but do not be afraid." Jonathan welcomed them into the blue drawing room. "Welcome home," he said. The words made Anna's breath catch. That evening they dined together, not as master and servant, but as equals at the table. Thomas laughed over the courses of food. Jonathan watched him with quiet pride. Soon, invitations were sent. Anna attended her first dinner as Miss Sinclair. She felt every eye on her. Lady Penton, the leader of society, studied her closely. "You are well educated for someone raised quietly in Scotland," Lady Penton observed. "My father valued knowledge," Anna replied calmly. She spoke on literature and current events with natural intelligence. Years of listening in drawing rooms had prepared her well. When she returned home that night, she felt exhausted, but alive. "You were magnificent," Jonathan told her in the carriage. "Do they believe me?" she asked. "They believe what they see," he replied. 6 weeks later, in the rose garden, Jonathan dropped to one knee. "Anna Sinclair," he said clearly, holding out a ring of sapphire and diamond. "Will you become my wife?" Thomas gasped with delight. "Say yes, Mama," he urged. Anna looked at Jonathan. She saw not a duke protecting his name, but a man choosing courage over fear. "Yes," she said. Jonathan slid the ring onto her finger. Thomas ran into his arms. "Does this mean you will be my new papa?" the boy asked. Jonathan's voice broke slightly. "Yes," he answered, "if your mother allows it." Anna watched them together and felt something bloom in her chest that she had buried long ago. Perhaps this time, love would not be whispered in secret. Perhaps this time, it would be spoken aloud. The wedding day dawned bright and cold, with pale sunlight spilling through the chapel windows of Harcourt Manor. Anna stood before the tall mirror in her chamber, hardly recognizing the woman reflected there. The ivory silk gown shimmered softly around her, lace resting against her shoulders like delicate frost. Her hair was styled high and elegant, no longer pinned back in the severe fashion of a servant. Once, she had cleaned these halls before sunrise. Now she would walk down the aisle as the future Duchess of Harcourt. There was a knock at the door. "Mama." Thomas stepped inside, dressed in a small, dark suit, his blue eyes shining with excitement. "You look like a queen." Anna knelt before him, smoothing his collar. "And you look like a prince," she said gently. He studied her for a moment, then asked in a softer voice, "You are happy, aren't you?" Anna felt her heart swell. "Yes, my darling, I am." When the chapel doors opened, Jonathan stood waiting at the altar. He wore formal black, his posture strong, yet his expression held a softness that had not existed 6 years earlier. As Anna walked toward him, she felt the weight of every step she had taken to reach this moment. The attic room, the lonely cottage, the whispered denial, the years of silence. She did not look back. "Do you, Jonathan Edward Harcourt, take Anna Margaret Sinclair to be your lawful wife?" "I do," he said clearly. "Do you, Anna Margaret Sinclair, take Jonathan Edward Harcourt to be your lawful husband?" Anna met his eyes. "I do." When he kissed her, it was not hidden in shadows. It was not followed by shame. It was witnessed and honored. Thomas clapped with joy. After the ceremony, Jonathan knelt before the boy. "Thomas," he said gently, "there is something I wish to ask you. Well, would you allow me to become your father in truth, to guide you and protect you always?" Thomas blinked in surprise. "You would not leave?" he asked quietly. "Never," Jonathan answered. Thomas threw his arms around him. "Then yes, I would like that very much." The legal adoption papers were signed within the month. Thomas Fletcher became Thomas Harcourt, heir to the dukedom. The announcement was made carefully. Society whispered, but none dared challenge the Duke openly. There were raised brows. There were quiet speculations. But Anna carried herself with grace that silenced many doubts. She listened more than she spoke. She treated servants with fairness and dignity. She managed the household with calm authority. In time, respect replaced curiosity. The London season came the following spring. Anna entered ballrooms under glittering chandeliers, her emerald gowns catching candlelight. Women who once might have dismissed her now sought her conversation. Men praised her intelligence. Lady Penton, once watchful, offered a measured nod of approval. "You have adapted well," Lady Penton said one evening. "I had good guidance," Anna replied with a small smile. Jonathan never left her side unless duty required it. And even then, his eyes found her across crowded rooms. Thomas began his formal education. Tutors spoke highly of his sharp mind and steady character. He showed kindness to those beneath him and confidence with those above him. He carried both his parents within him. One quiet night, years later, Anna stood in the nursery of Harcourt Manor once more. Thomas, now 10 years old, sat beside Jonathan while he read aloud to their younger children. Little Catherine leaned sleepily against her father's arm. Baby James rested in his crib. "Papa," Catherine murmured, "tell the story about the brave Duke." Jonathan glanced at Anna with warmth in his eyes. "Once," he began softly, "there was a duke who thought his title made him powerful. But he learned that true strength came from love, from courage, and from admitting when he was wrong." "And did he fix his mistake?" Thomas asked quietly. Jonathan closed the book and looked directly at his eldest son. "Yes," he said. "He did everything he could to fix it." Thomas studied him thoughtfully, as if sensing deeper meaning. Later that evening, when the children slept, Anna walked with Jonathan through the rose garden where he had once knelt before her. "Ma, do you ever fear the truth will come out?" she asked softly. Jonathan took her hand. "The truth is that I love my wife and my children," he said. "Nothing else matters." Anna paused beneath the moonlight. "One day," she said, "Thomas may ask more questions." "When he does," Jonathan replied, "we will tell him that he was born from love, even if that love began in confusion and fear. We will tell him that mistakes do not define a man. His choices afterward do." Anna felt tears gather in her eyes. "You have changed," she whispered. Jonathan smiled faintly. "So have you." He pulled her gently into his arms. "I once said no one could know," he murmured. "I was wrong. The world may not know every detail, but they see what we are now. A family." Anna rested her head against his chest. She had once been told she was only a maid, but now she was a duchess, a wife, and a mother. But more than that, she was a woman who had discovered her worth not through title, but through strength and love. Years later, when Thomas stood tall beside his father at public events, when Catherine danced at her first ball, when James ran laughing through the same halls where Anna once moved unseen, she understood something clearly. Love had not erased the past. It had transformed it. The whispered shame had become a spoken promise. The secret child had become the cherished heir. And the Duke who once feared scandal had learned that the greatest courage was choosing his heart over his pride. In the end, it was not society's approval that mattered. It was the quiet certainty that in the halls of Harcourt Manor, love had taken root and refused to be silenced. And that was more powerful than any title could ever be.